Thank you all for joining today. We have got a fun webinar today talking all about the ins and outs of the application editor. So today I'll go over the application editor and show you how to set up your application form to collect information you need from the artist to apply to your call. First, I will go over an introduction to the application editor. So the application editor is the second tab of the call editor and is where you'll build out the application form that the artist will complete in order to apply to your call. You can find the application editor tab by clicking on the events management tab, which we're already in, selecting your call here, and then going to the call editor. From here, the application editor tab is the second one. So I will first show you some of this information that is already collected by CaFÉ by going to one of the applications submitted to this call. So we'll go to the received status, and we'll click on the application of one of these received artists. So the information entered in the artist profile will automatically be pulled into each application submitted on CaFÉ, and it will update in real time. If an artist makes an update to their profile section, that will update all across CaFÉ for any applicants submitted or the ones that are in progress. So as you can see here on the application, this is the artist citation page, but it's basically the application submitted to the call. You can see here that at the top is the details from the artist that they included. So you've got the name here, you've got the email address. This is where you can also go to email them individually. You just click on this. You've got their phone number. There's going to be a website if they have their artist website listed, their mailing address, and then if they're in a team and they've notified that on their profile, it will say the name of the team members as well. So the second bit of information that will automatically be pulled by CaFÉ is the artwork sample information. This information is entered by the artist when they upload their work samples to the CaFÉ portfolio. On the artist citation page, you can find this information by clicking on the thumbnail of the artwork at the bottom. Some of these details are different for audio and video files, but for artwork images, the details that are entered by the artist are the name of it, the medium, size and dimensions, the price or value of the piece, the year they completed it, the discipline, whether it's an art in public places piece, which is usually only for public art pieces. And then if they provide one, there's going to be the description of the piece there. So since the artwork details and the artist's contact information is already being collected by CaFÉ, that means you do not need to include questions on your application that asks for this information. You will be able to view this info as shown here on the artist citation page. And you'll also be able to download this info as spreadsheets from the events management page. So you can download this information from any of these reports here. Back to the application editor, I will now go over the tools we have so you can collect the additional information you need from artists. So this kind of information can be anything that you want to know from the artist about their background, such as their bio, professional experience, or even additional info that you'll need from artists in order to put together your event, such as permissions or membership status. So the first section of the application editor is the artist statement options. This is where you'll easily request an artist statement from your applicants. To activate this section, make sure the setting is toggled to active and choose the character limit you want, up to 5,000 characters, with the spaces included. You also have the option to include additional instructions to applicants. If you do not include additional instructions, the default under this artist statement box will simply be, please provide a brief statement with however many characters you choose. When you're finished filling out these settings, you will save this section by clicking the Modify button here. You actually will not be using the Save button to save this section. In order to save any of the changes you've made here, you'll want to click that Modify button. This will take you to a preview of exactly the same format as when the application will go live. So you'll see that I talked about, as well as those additional instructions above the text box here. The next section, Application Custom Questions, is where you'll build out the questions you want to ask the artist. You can use this to set up submission requirements to apply, such as resumes, bios, letters of interest, and more. You can create an unlimited number of questions, although you want to keep in mind the information that is already being collected by CaFÉ, and of course, be mindful not to create too many questions so you don't deter artists from applying. So in this section here, each line represents one custom question. This table is just a quick view of the questions, but I will soon show you where you'll actually edit the questions themselves. You'll see here in the table the question title, which is just an actual, it's not the actual question, it's just an internal title so that you'll know what the question is. The priority and type. Priority refers to the order the question appears in the application, with 1 being first. And the type refers to the format of the question itself, which I'll go over. The options, when applicable, is the format. If the format allows multiple answer options, this is where you'll choose how many. And then hide from jurors, you can select to automatically hide the question from the jurors. This is helpful if you know that the question is going to be irrelevant to their consideration. And then the edit column has the buttons where you can go in and edit the question, delete a question, or of course build a new one. So before I show you the ins and outs of each format type, I will show you how to build a new question. So first you'll go to the empty line of questions in this table, the one next to it that says build new question. If you're just starting out with your application, you will only see this one empty line. So first you'll enter a title that will only be seen by you and that you can use as a reference for the question. So for example, I'll type in technique just as an internal title. You'll then choose your format type. We'll leave it as text for now. If there's any options available, which there won't be for text, and then if you're going to hide it, then you'll click Build New Question, and you'll be taken to a different page, which is the question editor. So depending on the format of the question you choose, whether it's text, checkbox, radio button, you'll have some different options on this page. But the most important step is to actually type out the question in this text box here. This is where the question will be visible to the artist. So you'll want to actually type out your question. So yeah, without a question in this text box, your artist will not know how to fill out their application. They'll just see some random boxes and not know how to answer them. So after you write the question, you can choose the order under priority. You can say whether the question is required in order to save their application. And then you will decide here if you want to hide it. The second text box here, next to information, allows you to input additional info that will help the artist answer the question. This will appear as a help bubble that the artist can click, and the information will appear as a pop-up on the site. So to show you the help bubble real quick on our preview, it just comes up as an orange little bubble, and then you can click on it and it will show the additional information that you provide in the second text box on the question editor tab. So this is where that additional help text is. So back to there, or once you're done with this building the question, you'll click Create Questions to save that. And you'll see that we've added it here with number 7, so it's at the bottom. If you need to go back and edit the question, you just click Edit. Once you've made your changes, make sure to click Update to save the edits. And then, of course, you can click Delete to delete that question. Just know that if you delete any questions after the application is live, that will remove the answers from the applications, and you won't have that info anymore. So now I'll go over all the different types of the questions we have available to use and how to set up each one, since they're a little bit different. These types can be found in this drop-down menu under Priority, so you can see here the options that you have. And I will show you both from how to edit them and from the preview that we have to see what they look like. So first, the text option allows you to ask applicants to type their answer in a text box. You can use this for open-ended questions. When you build this question, you can select to have a maximum character limit, or you can choose no limit. And you'll see on the preview that this appears as a text box. Pretty self-explanatory. So that is the text. The next one is the checkbox type. So this will let the applicant select one or more answers from a group of options. When you build this question, you'll choose how many options from the custom question table under the options column. Here we've chosen 5. When you go to the question editor, you'll see that the number of options will be available to edit. So depending on what your number is on this other page, it will show how many options on this page. So you'll want to write your question as normal in the first text box, choose any of your other settings, and then write individual answer options in each of the fields below. You can change the order of these options by changing the number of the priority. And you can select to have one pre-selected. You can also click the box next to remove. Once you check the box next to remove and click update, that is when whichever one you've selected will be deleted if you need to delete one. So you'll see here on our preview that this question type allows artists to select as many answers as they want and unselect them if they need. So this is good for multiple answer options that might apply for multiple answers. So now to the radio button. The radio button type is like the checkbox question, but it only allows applicants to select one answer from your set of options. This is usually good for yes or no questions or questions where you know only one answer will be applicable. So again, you'll choose your total number of options from the drop-down list. And once you go into edit, you will customize those options. So it's just like the checkbox. You can do the same order, selecting, pre-selecting, or removing them. On the preview, though, you'll see that it's different in that the answer can only be chosen, only one answer can be chosen by the artist. Doesn't let it do both. That's the radio button. Next, the drop-down list is, again, only allows one answer to be selected from a variety of answers, but this will appear as a drop-down list. While this is like the radio button, this may be better if you have quite a few options to choose from, and that will clean up the look of the application. In the editor, fill out the options as normal. Be sure not to leave any of them blank. I have one here showed as blank, and I'll show you what that looks like, but it will appear as a blank option to the applicant, and they'll be able to choose that one. So you want to make sure that they don't have the option to choose a blank option. Same as before, priority is the order. You can select to pre-select one. I can show you what that looks like. Or you can select to remove. On the preview here, you can see our drop-down menu. It was already pre-selected, but you can see that we've got a blank answer in there, and you don't want to let them choose that answer. So to remove that, I would just go into here, click the box next to remove, and click update. And this would remove, so now I only have 4 options, and if I refresh this page, I can see that I no longer have a blank option. So the final question type that we have that collects information from artists is called the file upload. Here you can have applicants upload a file. It's important to note that these files cannot be larger than 2 megabytes. It must be one of the accepted formats. We've got text, PDF, documents, spreadsheets, or image. Not image that is the actual entry, but you can put a JPEG. So this upload feature works well for documents like a resume, a full biography, brief manuscript, or any other proposal documents you need. Because of the file size requirement, though, keep in mind you might not be able to collect lengthy proposal documents or large file PDFs. In the question editor, you'll see that the file size and the format types are automatically uploaded in the additional information box. This is so artists knows what formats are acceptable to upload for that question. On the preview, you'll see that the option to select a file. And the help bubble here will show you that same additional text for the file size requirements. So again, make sure to include the actual question in this text box, or else when they come to the application and this is blank, they won't know what file to upload. So speaking of file uploads, I'll briefly show you where you can find the files that are actually uploaded to the applications. So to show you this, I'll go to the Events Management tab, choose the call, and I'm going to select the receive status. And then when you click on the application ID number to go back to that artist citation page for their application, you can see the custom questions that we've had here and then the answers. And then underneath the file upload question, you'll see the option to download the file next to that question. So please note at this time, we don't have the option to bulk download these files for all of the applicants at once. So they'll have to be viewed separately by going into this page. The jurors, though, will also be able to view these files as it appears similarly like this as it does on their scorecard. So that's where you'll find the file uploads. All right, back to the Application Editor tab. We have one more format to go over. This one is a custom question, but it's not one that collects information from the artist. It's the informational only type. So this allows you to enter instruction or informational only text that does not require an answer. This is good for giving additional info about your call or to set up reasons within the application for why you're collecting certain pieces of information. Some also use this to include information directly above the media requirements, which I'll show you. This is so they can reiterate what is required before the artist reaches that section. You'll see that the question editor, if I go in there, looks like any other question, but you'll have less options. The two text boxes, the first one is the initial information. The second one will also appear as a help bubble. Here, the priority will be important because it will determine where on the page this information is shown. So if you want to make sure that it's at the bottom, make sure it's in the right priority order so that you know that it's at the bottom of the questions before they reach the media requirements. I'll show you now that it looks like on the preview, I've chosen the priority so that it's right at the bottom, right before they reach those work sample section, so that you know that they're reading that, hopefully reading that, before they get to the work samples portion. All right, so those are the 6 different types of the formats we have for your custom questions. As I've been showing you, you can preview these questions just by clicking the Preview Applications link. If you're using the same one like I am, just make sure you refresh your preview as you make changes. So you'll use this to make sure that you have your questions written correctly, make sure they're in the order you want them, and make sure they make sense to the artist that's applying. Before I get started to the next portion, I will give everyone a couple minutes if anyone has any questions about what I've talked about so far. So you can throw those questions in the chat. But to answer your question about the custom questions, you can always add any additional informational only formats. So you can add some extra info so the artist knows what to expect when they get to the entry fee page. So to answer your question, yes, that could be true. But if you want to make sure that you're all set up payment-wise with your entry fees, feel free to email us. Thank you. And then Don, is there a logical space to ask artists to not have their name on the image uploads? Yeah, I think if you add an informational only saying that you're going to be doing a blind jury and you don't want artists to have their name on the image, you can definitely do that in that space right before the work sample section so that they can see that they need to make sure none of their work samples have their name attached to the work sample itself. So I would say doing that right below your questions before the media sample upload section of the application. So the next part of the application editor is the categories. I will show you, it's right below the custom form questions. So this allows you to create custom categories that the applicants must choose from. On the application itself, this appears just like any of the other questions. However, instead of showing up as one of the answers on the back end, you'll be able to sort and organize the applications based on their category. Categories will also be visible in the jury process. Your jurors will be able to score by category, and you'll be able to set your desired number of invited entries per category if you choose to do so. This is really helpful if you know, for example, that you need to select only a certain number of sculptures for your show, or if you know you can only allow a certain number of non-members to be shown in the exhibit. Categories enable you to have more control over some of these groupings. So first I'll show you how to enable the categories, and then I'll show you how you can view it from the back end on the Events Management tab. So you'll want to make sure the Categories Editor is disabled if you do not intend to use it. If it's active, change it to disabled and click Go. This is the button that you need to click in order to save this section. You can't use the Save button. You click this to save this portion. You don't want it active when you're not using it because it will show up on the application as a section that needs to be filled out. But without any options being used, the artist won't be able to submit their application. So this is something that can hold up your applicants if you have it active, but you have no categories set. So to activate it, make sure it's clicked active, click Go, and then you'll see the forms, the fields here that you can add your categories. So you have to have at least two. You can't just have one category because that defeats the purpose. So you can type in the name of the category here. You click Edit just to save this section, so it doesn't really go into another page. You can delete a category. Just make sure you're not deleting anything after the applicant's already applied. And here's where you'll add a category if you need to. You just click Add Category to save that. See, if you want to preview your application with the categories enabled to see what the artist will be seeing, depending on your call type, you might not actually be able to preview it automatically. This is because categories appear differently on calls that are jury by artist and ones that are jury by artwork. If your call is jury by artist, you'll be able to see the categories in the preview at the top of the custom questions. This is a different preview that I've been showing you. This is one for a jury by artist call. You'll see that the select a category question is at the very top. So they select one category for the entire application. And this is because the media samples that they upload will be grouped together and scored as a whole, which means you only need the one category for the entire group of images. Now, if your call is jury by artwork, each image will have its own category because they will be scored individually. I will log into our live demo application so that you can see what this looks like. So here we've got our jury by artwork call. It's mostly filled out. I will go in to complete it. They've got all the questions that we've shown you before. Then they'll select their images. Once they're done and they're ready to go, they click Save. And then this is where you'll see the categories. So they will click a category for each of their pieces. This is their 3D one down here. Depending on what type of categories you use, the artist may have the same answers for all these images. Say you use the categories to determine different location or states or something. So they might all be the same. But if you're using it something for like this, like a medium or a format, you might have different answers of categories in the same group. So that's just to show you what it looked like. You can't actually see this page from the preview, but it will be available to the artist if you have a jury by artwork call and you are using categories. This is also helpful if you have different locations for, let's say, a public art call. Some folks use different categories so that they know which wall they're applying to or which space. They can easily choose from the categories which pieces they want in what spots. All right, so now to show you what this looks like on the administrative side, I will go to the Events Management tab, and I'll click on the Received status. You'll see that one of the table category or headers is category. You can click this header to sort it so that all of the categories are grouped together. You can also select the category from the search box to only view the entries that are within a certain category. If you need to change the category, you can actually do so. You would change it just like you would the status. You would just change it here and click Save to save the change. You'll most likely only change the category for the artist if you know from them that they chose the wrong one, for example, or maybe you know that if you're doing it by location of a public art piece, maybe they decided to change which category they wanted to apply to. So you can actually make that change for them. So you can also go to the artist citation page, and the category will be visible not in the custom questions, but down below under art, just above the statement, if they have them. And then I will also show you how the juror sees it. So let me log into our juror account because this will show you how categories are used. So we'll go to this call. When they log in, they can actually select a certain category to score at a time by selecting the total number next to that category. This way they can view certain categories at a time, especially if they're medium related or relate to specific locations. For the public art example, they can also click on the total number just to not jury based on categories, just to see them all. And then you'll also be able to see the different categories and can sort it from the jury administration page on your end, and you can organize it from there. So there's multiple ways categories can be used to organize your entries at all stages of the call process. So moving on, I will lastly point out on the Application Editor tab, the final portion is the media requirements section here. This is where you'll see the range of image, video, and audio samples you're allowing for your call. The media requirements are the artwork sample requirements. The artwork sample requirements are separate from the custom questions. Artwork sample requirements should not be set up in custom questions. They are instead set up here under media requirements. So this portion is only editable by CaFÉ staff and usually cannot be changed after your call goes live. The media requirements often tie into your entry fees. For example, if you charge an additional media fee for any sample submitted above the minimum, which is why that we ask you to verify all requirements, including entry fees, before going live. If you have any questions about the media requirements or decide you need to change them before your call goes live, you can reach out to us and we will help you make those changes. So when in doubt, just ask us and we'll take a look and see if there's any changes need to be made to your image requirements. All right, well, that was about it. This concludes our webinar of the CaFÉ's Application Editor. If you're just starting out or have been using CaFÉ for a while now, I hope you learned some helpful things about building application questions. So as always, our team is available for you for any of your questions. As we're not out of the pandemic yet, please continue to update us on any changes to your events so that we can keep track of them. We're rooting for you guys, so we hope that you all are doing well. I will stay on the line for about 5 minutes or so to answer any questions submitted through the chat. And if you have any specific questions about your call, please contact us at cafehelp@weststaff.org. Thanks again for joining us today. And like I said, I will email you all the recording of this webinar in a couple weeks for your future reference. I know what this means. So if you have up to, so you can actually have up to 20 images per call that you collect. And when this displays on the preview, this displays on the preview of the application itself. Either the thumbnails of all of the image will appear in one row, has many it fits, or it appears in multiple rows. So this is just how it displays on the application. I'll try to find one that is, let's go to the artist call. And I'll try to see if there's anything that they submitted a lot in. It's just a display. So you can see how media files per row, we've got one image per row. But if I changed that to 2 per row, it would be 2 images, 2 images, 2 images here. So it's just how it displays on the application. All right, since it seems like there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. If you're still around, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have another one next month. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your May.